No. Let's see. Okay, there.
Meeting of February 4th, 2021 to order. Before I proceed, I want to take a moment to go over our meeting protocols for this evening. We are continuing to have our meetings in as a virtual meeting setting to ensure the health and safety of the public by limiting human contact that could spread the COVID-19 virus. This meeting may be viewed live online. In an effort to best facilitate dialogue and discussion during tonight's meeting, I'm going to ask that the board be mindful of muting their microphones when not speaking. I will call, or the next chair will call on board members to speak on each item one by one. I thank you all for your patience as we proceed with our meeting tonight. So our first order is to have roll call. Will the staff note that the following individuals are present? Our new board member, Joe Carlson, we welcome you here. And I think we're looking forward to your insight and input into our design review board. So thank you for wanting to be a part.
Of course.
And we have board member Sy, board member Younger, Vice Chair Hill, and myself. And we have our Mayor Mahmood is joining us today, or tonight, I should say, from as our council liaison. So welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay, we have approval of our agenda, board and staff. Do you have any requests or additions or revisions to the agenda? If so, please raise your hand. Anything from the board? No? Okay, staff, any revisions that we need on the agenda tonight?
No, there is not.
Okay. All right, seeing no request, I would like a vote of the board to proceed with the approval of the agenda as submitted. We will take a roll call. Vice Chair Hill.
Here.
Okay, so
Or
yay.
approve as
Yeah,
submitted.
okay.
Sorry.
And okay. Board Member Younger.
Approved.
Yay. Okay. Board Member Sy.
Yes.
Yes. And Board Member Carlson.
Yes, approved.
And myself, yes. So, okay, that passes 5-0. Next is the disclosure by the board of site visits and ex parte contact for items on today's agenda. Vice Chair Hill.
I did not speak with anybody regarding the projects, nor did I visit the sites and speak with anybody.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Younger.
I did not visit any sites nor speak with anyone associated with any of them.
Okay, Board Member Sy.
I have not been to any of the sites or spoken with anyone about the projects.
Okay, and Board Member Carlson.
Additionally, I've not spoken with anybody associated or seen any of the projects.
Okay, and neither have I. So we're all okay on that. Okay. Public comments and suggestions. The Design Review Board welcomes public input, of course. Members of the public were asked to provide comments by 12 p.m. today, and we do have some tonight. Pursuant to state law, this commission may not discuss or take action on issues not on the meeting agenda, except that members of the board or staff may briefly respond to statements made or questions. Staff may be asked to follow up on such items. Staff, did we receive any general public comments or suggestions?
Mr. Chair, no, we did not receive any general public comments.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our first, sorry, let me shut that off. Our first business item is reorganization of the board tonight. Staff report, please.
So this is our first meeting for the Design Review Board. So we need to select a new chair and vice chair. And as mentioned in the staff report, Chair Smeaton and Vice Chair Hill have served as chair and vice chair for 2 straight years. So they're unable to serve in the same positions, but they may switch if they choose. So well, that's up to the board. If the board decides to switch their positions or like a new chair or vice chair.
Okay, thank you, staff. So now I think what we do is we will open the floor up for nominations from our board for, let's start off with the chair position. So anybody that would like to nominate someone or themselves, please raise your hand and speak. Melissa?
I'd like to nominate Samantha for the chair.
Okay. All right, Samantha is one. Do we have any other nominations for chair? Okay,
Hi, I also would like to nominate Samantha for the chair.
okay. That's two there. Okay, so I will, I think I'm certainly heading in that direction myself. So I think what we'll do is we'll close the nomination for the chair, and since I'm hearing no more, and we can take a vote for the chair. So let's do this. Let me make sure I'm following this correctly. Vice chair, the floor is open for nomination. Ask for motion in a second. Oh, I see. We do it that way. Motion in a second. Okay. Okay. So let's do. So we have an appointment for chair. Let's do vice chair. I would like to nominate Melissa for vice chair if she's willing to accept that as a nomination. Do I see a positive from, is that something you'd be interested in, Melissa?
I'd be open to it.
Okay. Okay. Do we have any more nominations for vice chair?
I would like to also nominate Melissa for the vice chair.
Okay. Very good.
I'd also like to apologize. I can't change my screen to say Samantha Hill, my name. I'm not sure if it's a setting. So I apologize for everybody if you can't see it. My name is Samantha Hill. So I apologize. It says my company name, Design with Skill.
And I always have a problem. I never have a last name. It's always Mark. So it's like, that's kind of where I'm at. Okay, so I think what we do now is ask for a motion and a second. Do we have a motion to approve Samantha Hill for chair and Melissa Sy for vice chair? Do we have a motion for that? Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Kay makes a motion that we have Chair Hill, and it would be Vice Chair Sy. Do we have a second? I second. I second that. Okay, and let's see. It looks like we will take a vote, take action. Vice Chair Hill, are you in favor of that motion? I think I'm doing this correctly.
Yes.
Okay. Board Member Younger.
I'm sorry, I think I was asleep in that moment.
Are you, we're saying yay or nay. Are you in agreement with that motion and the second?
Yes, yay.
Okay, terrific.
Yay.
Okay. All right, let's go with Board Member Sy.
Yes.
Okay, and Board Member Carlson.
Yes.
Okay, and myself, absolutely. So it passes 5-0. So we now have, it passes unanimously. So we now have a new chair and a new vice chair for the 2021 Design Review Board. And so now, effectively, Samantha Hill will take over as chair, as I will step out. And so please take over. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. Okay, so everybody has to bear with me because I am taking over this evening. And so this is my first pass at chair. So we will see how it goes. All right. Thank you. Our next business item is an annual report and work plan. Staff report, please.
So both the annual report and work plan were presented to the board at your December meeting. And at that meeting, the board did approve the annual report, but had changes to the work plan and continued it so our new board member could offer input. So staff is looking for the board to approve the work plan tonight. And I can go ahead and share the work plan on the screen so the board may start discussion on it, or if the board would just like to approve it, we can start with that motion.
Okay, great, thank you. Did everybody have a chance to review the work plan and take a look at it in the agenda in the packet? Or would you like Melinda to bring it up on the screen to go through it?
I reviewed it, yes.
You reviewed it? Okay, great,
Yeah.
thank you. All right, in that case, I don't know if you need to bring it up on the screen. If we do at any point, feel free to just raise your hand and ask for Melinda to bring it up. But in terms of the work plan, does anyone have any questions to the staff or for the staff? Mark?
Yeah, maybe Melinda, you can give us an update. I saw landscape plan requirements, a requirement list was something to be worked on in this first quarter. And if I recall, our former board member Yael, did she ever, was there any work started or established with that landscape requirement plan last quarter or anything with Yael?
We did get a little bit of feedback from her, but we haven't started a template, but Kanika would know more.
I can answer that question. We got some feedback from our former board member Yal there, but those feedback really did not help us start putting together the handouts and template. It was more of questions of our ordinance, right? And what can we do to improve that? So if the board would like, and depending on priority as well, understanding that planning staff is also working on other long range planning policy that we need to meet per state law, such as our housing element design, also for ADUs and all that. So if the board would like, maybe we could move that further down the list and create a subcommittee to work with staff on that.
In my opinion, I don't think it's a real make or break at this point. Would you think that, Kanika? I mean, are we okay with the public right now on that? I mean, it may not be perfect, but it's still usable. What we have.
I agree. I mean, we don't have to hand out for landscape for the public, but we do have a landscape section when a project is subject to it. It spells out specifically what needs to be submitted already.
Okay.
And that's reviewed during building permit stage. So I think we're covered there. The idea was really to create like a brochure or template type of style that we could just pass out to property owner for them to understand. But just so you know, we are updating our ADU ordinance and there's two phases to it. Phase one is really helping promote ADU production. And phase two is coming up with objective design standard to protect our historic resources. And we do plan, we did get award from the state, a grant from the state to work on that. And we do plan to have joint meeting between this design review board, our planning commission, and our cultural heritage commission to review those design standards. So this board will be busy with that as well too.
Okay.
Okay, great. So were there any other questions in terms of the work plan for 2021? I'm seeing none. So in that case, would anyone like to make a motion to approve the work plan moving forward, and perhaps mark with the condition that the landscape guidelines and design standards be pushed to maybe the third quarter? I'm not sure what quarter makes sense.
I know I see that we have residential and commercial guidelines to third and fourth quarter. Maybe we just handle it all at the same, try to, because I know staff is working hard on ADUs and all that right now. We've got a lot of upfront for them. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe it'll loosen up toward the end of the year you think that might be possible, Kanika?
Yeah, I think that'll be great if we could move it, the landscape plan to maybe the fourth quarter. I think the design guidelines is more of a priority. You know, with the new state laws coming in for approval, we really need to beef up our design guidelines and turn them into standard.
Okay.
So I think maybe we could move the landscape plan to the fourth and more focusing more on a residential and commercial design guideline and standards.
Okay, great. So would someone like to make a motion to approve with the condition that the landscape be part of the commercial and the residential design guidelines update at for the end of the year?
I'll make the motion.
Great, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Excellent, great. So a motion was made by Melissa Hansai and a second by Mark Smeaton. We will take a roll call. Vice Chair Sai,
Yes.
Board Member Younger,
Yes.
Board Member Smeaton,
Yes.
Board Member Carlson,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Great. So it passes unanimously by a vote of 5-0. We will now move to item number 3 and the first public hearing item, which is a continued item for the facade remodel and sign permit for Pavilion's grocery store at 1213 Fair Oaks Avenue. Staff report, please.
Madam Chair, Board Member Smeaton needs to recuse himself because he's within 1,000 feet of that project site. So we'll go ahead and block him out.
Great, thank you.
Well, can you guys doing that? I would like to introduce you to our contract planner who is working on this project, Lisa. And once Mark is off, we'll play the presentation.
Melinda, do you have the presentation to play, or Lisa? One of you have that presentation?
I have it up, but I'm not able to share the screen.
Okay, you should be able to share now. Hey, Lisa, we cannot hear the audio for your presentation.
Good evening. This presentation is for 1213 Fair Oaks Avenue, project number 2343, DRX SGN, an application for design review and sign plan. The item was continued from the November 5th DRB meeting in order to improve the plans. The project involves the remodel of an existing 33,355 square foot grocery store. No new square footage is proposed and no existing trees will be removed. The remodel includes modification of the front and side building elevations, repainting the entire building, installation of new lighting on front elevation, replacing existing parking lot fixture heads with new LED lights, upgrading accessible path to the public right-of-way on Monterey Road, installing new curb ramps at main entry doors, providing new bicycle parking, upgrading the loading dock and trash enclosure area, interior tenant improvements throughout the store, new planters and trees are now proposed, and updating the signage. The project site is located at the southwest corner of Fair Oaks Avenue and Monterey Road in the Lower Fair Oaks Commercial Subdistrict. This slide shows the aerial view of the site outlined in green. This slide shows images of the front and sides of the existing grocery store. The rear of the building has the same appearance as the sides, but is not visible since it abuts multifamily homes. This is the previous proposed site plan for the project that was seen November 5th. The areas circled in orange indicate improved pathways. The red boxes indicated landscaping improvements being proposed, and the blue area indicated new bicycle parking. The applicant revised the site plan by adding several more trees along the perimeter and adding planters for the trees to shade the parking areas. A total of 17 new 24-inch box trees will be added to the site while maintaining the required number of parking spaces. This slide shows the current and proposed front facade. The proposed design for this elevation adds vertical screens to highlight the entries and break up the existing continuous horizontal plane. The two vertical screens are painted black to highlight the main entries. The newly proposed wood siding will extend the entry canopying and wrap the northeast corner wall. The entire building will be painted in earth tone palette. Two paint colors are used for the main body of the building. This slide compares the revised plan with the previous facade you saw November 5th. The previously proposed stacked stone has been removed and replaced with dark gray cement. The entry planter has also changed to river rock. This is a closer look at the revised material board, showing the new wood siding, paint colors, and proposed river rock. This elevation shows both the pedestrian access improvement, landscape planter, and the newly proposed wood siding that wraps the corner wall. This is the north elevation side. Previously, the applicant had proposed 3 graphic art panels to articulate the facade and break up the existing horizontal plane, in addition to 3 planter islands with trees to soften the north elevation. The applicant no longer wishes to provide art panels and has replaced the panels with 3 vertical screens to match the front facade and has added an additional planter and tree instead. This slide shows the current and proposed south facade facing Linden Street, as well as the trash and loading area. The facade, fabric fencing, and trash area gate will be repainted to match the other elevations. This slide shows the partial current and proposed west facade facing multifamily homes. The only change here will be repainting of the facade. The applicant has submitted a proposed sign plan that includes 4 wall signs on the primary elevation and 1 wall sign on the side elevation, in addition to refacing the monument sign at the corner of Monterey Road and Fair Oaks. As proposed, the plan does not meet the zoning regulation in terms of size of signs and number of signs. The existing monument sign at Monterey Road is considered legal nonconforming at its 4 feet 6 inches in height, where the maximum allowed is 3 feet. The DRB may approve the use of the sign if it determines that the site or business visibility would be inadequate with a lower height. With that, staff recommends the Design Review Board continue the project and form a subcommittee for the proposed facade remodel to further refine the proposed details and compatibility with South Pasadena. Other options include approving with conditions added, continue the project to address comments discussed, or deny the project. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So at this point, does any of the board members have questions for the staff? Vice Chair Tsai?
Madam Chair, before Vice Chair start, staff would like to add some short oral update to this project. Is that okay?
Perfect.
So if the board recall, and this is also for benefit of our new member, this actually was presented to the board, I forget when, but it was continue to ask them to provide additional trees in a parking lot, which they have done. And also for them to revise the facade renovation, and also directed the applicant to go to the Public Art Commission to get feedback on the 3 art panels. It looks like in this proposal here, staff is not recommending approval, but requesting the board to form a subcommittee to work with the applicant to refine the facade renovation. And also regarding the side elevation where they're putting the art panel. I think the applicant is proposing to not do the art panel anymore and proposing some other architectural details on that elevation. So maybe that's something that the board could discuss tonight about if the board would like to applicant to stay with the art panel and put some South Pasadena arts on, or stay with what they're proposing. But the point of this meeting is really to form a subcommittee to work with the applicant on revising the facade renovation, because staff doesn't feel that their proposed renovation is providing the articulation or material that the board was looking for from the last meeting. However, if the board feel that this facade renovation could be approved tonight, we are ready to do that. I think it was when it came to the board last time, we provide you with findings of approval. And I believe that finding is still valid for the renovation, facade renovation this evening. So if the board decides to approve it, the board can decide to adopt the finding that was provided in the report from the last meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you for the clarification. So we'll go back to questions for the staff. Vice Chair Tsai.
Did they, so I'm just trying to, is the river, I mean, not the river rock, I forgot the stone texture that they had changed out. Is that stucco or is it like fiber cement panels? It just says cement, like plaster. So are they?
Lisa, can you answer that question? The applicant is on too. We could bring them on if this is a question that the applicant may be able to answer.
Okay, I could ask
Okay.
the applicant when that time comes. No, I don't have any other questions other than that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Vice Chair. So questions for the staff. Board Member Younger?
I have no questions.
Great, thank you. Board Member Carlson?
Yes, one quick question. With respect to that monument sign and the sizing, is it the same size that it is now, or are they proposing to make it larger? Because I believe there's a monument sign there now. Is that correct?
Right. Can you hear me okay? Yes, they're proposing it. They're keeping the same size of sign now. Previously, they were going to, I believe, make it larger. They're back to just changing the face of the sign.
I see. That's it.
Great, thank you. And so I also have just a quick question for the staff. Did the applicant take the art piece to the art commission, or was that not addressed? Did they just decide to remove the art from the side of the?
It hasn't been to the Public Art Commission yet.
It hasn't been, okay.
And staff was
Okay.
planning to, depending on what the board decide this evening, that we would take it to the Public Art Commission this month.
Got it. Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so that's the last of the questions for the staff. So we'll now open up the public hearing portion. Staff, were there any public comments for this item?
No, not for this time.
Okay, great. Do we have a presentation from the applicant?
We do not.
Okay. So in that case, do we have question? Is that the applicant is available? So I did hear Kanika mention that. So do we have questions for the applicant? I'll go through each board member. So Vice Chair Sai.
Um, yeah, so my previous question was the stone texture that was replaced with like cement plaster. Is that a stucco or is that like a fiber cement board?
This is Cedric Craig with FCJ Architecture. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, it's cement plaster. There, it's a 3-coat cement plaster system with the wood with the paneling down below that. So that was the stone that we had on there. Hair was removed, and we redesigned that corner elevation.
Okay. So it's the same material as what's towards the loading dock area.
Yeah.
That, you know, where I remember you were also refacing that side with some the same cement plaster.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And it's going to be the same texture.
Same texture.
Okay. And for the wood paneling, what kind of wood is that?
It's a paneling that is, it's a paneling system that that we're using. That's it's called Longboard by Inspiring Facades. It's a tongue and groove of siding material. That's a kind of a fur wood-looking material. So it's
So will that is that natural wood? I mean, is that natural wood or is it like composite material?
it's a paneling system. It's not real wood. We didn't really want to use real wood because of the durability and having it hold its color over a long period of time and being durable. But it looks like wood, but it's not real wood.
Okay, that was my concern. Okay. Okay. Those are the only questions I have.
Great, thank you, Vice Chair. So calling on Board Member Younger, do you have any questions for the applicant?
No, actually, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Board Member Carlson, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Yes, actually, looking at the package that I received, I'm not seeing a detail of that new concrete texture. I see the detail of the stacked flagstone, which I guess was the previous recommendation, but it's changed to that textured concrete. And I don't know if there's a detail of that we could look at.
There's no textured concrete. Everything is cement plaster in terms of the walls.
I see. Okay.
All those, what we've done is we've furred out the walls with framing to be able to create a cement plaster finish, because as the existing texture is rather coarse and difficult we can't really surface over what's there. So we've had to build walls in front of that to be able to provide cement plaster over what's existing.
So the essentially the texture of all what I'm seeing, the gray material would be relatively smooth, right?
It's a light sand finish,
okay.
So it has a slight texture, but it wouldn't be smooth.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you, Board Member Carlson. The only question that I have for the applicant goes to speak to the art panels that were removed and the reasoning behind that, and if that's something that would be considered moving forward. So I'm just kind of trying to understand. I know when we had met previously and we reviewed this, I don't believe that the board was opposed to having art pieces or a mural in that location. It was more of the image and the graphic that was on the mural.
Well, I could address that, and maybe, hey, Paul Herman is also with Albertsons, is on hold. If you could, maybe Paul could address that as well. I could give you our thoughts. Part of our thoughts were, adding those screens. We like the idea of the screens breaking up the horizontal plane. With the art panels, we had to stay below the parapet or even with the parapet. So, our original intent, and even with the art panels, was to break up the horizontal line across there. We had to drop those down, and we had to drop those panels. Originally, we had those panels, it's a little hard to see, but those panels were above the parapet line. So we had to bring those down and make them smaller. So we like the idea of being able to break that line up a little bit and to create a little more interest. We also, with those panels, we were able to actually make that area a little smaller and add another tree in there. So I think that helped in terms of breaking that wall up. So we liked the feeling of the rhythm of the trees across there. And then I think, the other thing we were looking at was just the amount of time that it was going to take to go through the art commission and try to come up with something. Albertsons was concerned about that amount of time, and there were some options of whether we just pay the art fee or whether we go through and work with the committee to try to come up with artwork, or whether it was going to evolve into something else.
Talk about bringing the architecture around.
And the other thing that those panels did, it also kind of helped pull some of the architecture on the front of the building around to the north elevation to try to get a little harmony between the front and that side elevation, which I think worked out really nicely in terms of pulling those screen elements over. I don't know whether, Paul Herman wants to add something, or whether you can unmute him with Albertsons so he could, if he has any comments.
Can you guys hear me? This is Paul Herman.
Yes.
Thank you for
Yes, we can hear you.
thanks for taking me off mute. Rick, thank you. That was almost everything that I would have touched on exactly. So yeah, we were a little concerned about the time or how long it would take to get something through the art commission. I echo Rick's comment with the rhythm of breaking up the facade there with the trees, and also being able to check off a box for you guys and adding additional trees to the site there as well. And having those panels above the roof line there to help break that up, and also tie in the front of the building there, we thought was looked nice. So
Great, thank you. That answers my question. I appreciate that. Okay, so now we will close the public hearing portion, and we will have a discussion. So at this point, if everybody can unmute themselves and let's have an open discussion. I will call on Vice Chair Sy to start, and then we can kind of go from there, and feel free to chime in and jump in to add to add any point that you feel is relevant. So Vice Chair Sy.
I mean, after thinking about this project, it's difficult to make such a big box into something that we, associate with what the style is of South Pasadena, because we're just a lot of single family homes, so it's like pretty impossible to have the task of doing that. And I know that was like a discussion we had at our previous meeting, to somehow transform this supermarket into something that we like correlate with the South Pasadena homes, like the Craftsman or California bungalows. It's just not easy. you know, so um, I don't think it's achieved what we were, we left at in our last meeting in, just adding the river rock around some planters is not, does not, I don't feel like achieve what we were trying to get at our last meeting. I feel like what we were trying to get at, completely is a completely different shape or form in general. And I understand that the owner has a certain budget, and I feel like what we were kind of imagining might be above what their budget will allow. So in terms of their goal of like cleaning up and updating the supermarket and, giving a facelift, I feel like it's achieved that, and it's better than what it was previously. But I think what we desire is not quite there yet.
I have to say, I agree with you. I've recently been driving by, and every time I drive by the existing facade, I think to myself, oh, I actually wish that they'd already start construction and just be moving forward with the improvements, because what's currently there is a bit of an eyesore. And so this is by all means, in my opinion, is definitely an improvement. And I understand also, like Melissa had mentioned, that there is budget constraints. It is a box, and we're looking for something that's a little bit more warm and homey and a different type of massing, but this is what we're working with. So the facade improvements, I actually commend the architect for, trying to do what Melissa's saying is somewhat impossible. It's very difficult to take this big box and dress it up and put, lipstick on the pig, if you will. So I do appreciate that. I will say I was a little disappointed to see the art piece go away. I was hoping that the art piece would transform as opposed to being completely removed. I appreciate, though, that in place of it, there was another material or element to try to break up that facade. And I also appreciate that there's the landscaping that's all the trees that were added, which is great. I will say my concern again for the art piece on that north facade is that while we're showing more trees along there, those trees are 24-inch boxes that you're going to put in, and at day one, they're not going to be that height. Those are going to be small trees. So you're going to get a pretty blank wall, and maybe over the course of 20 years, then you've got a mature tree. And I have to apologize, I'm not a landscape architect or expert. So it'll look a little bit different than I think what we're seeing there. So you're going to have the wall's going to be somewhat blank, and then you're going to have these 3 panels at the, the far north west side of the building. Whereas I felt the mural was actually quite nice in that regard. I just think that the concern that we had with the mural was that it was representing Pasadena, not South Pasadena. So had it been something that was a little bit more specific to our town, I felt like that would have really addressed the comment. But I understand the concern. You've got the budget, you've got time constraints and schedule, and wanting to get through as quickly as possible. You've already reviewed this once with us. This is your second time. Then also having to go to the art commission would be a challenge as well and take longer. So I understand that, but I do just wish that the art piece was addressed differently. And then my last comment I would say is I've actually used the longboard material before, the one that you specified, and I actually think it's a great product. It's aluminum. It's a bit to put up, so in terms of construction, it takes a bit of time because they're individual slats, but it's actually really durable, and I think it looks pretty well. So, it looks good. It actually appears we would. I know Starbucks, a lot of the big chains use this. It's a common material that they use. So I'm actually not opposed to that. I do think it kind of breaks up the facade and gives it a warmer texture by using something that, while it may not be wood, it appears to be wood. It's warmer, it's softer, but it has the maintenance, the qualities that you need in a material for maintenance and longevity. So that's my take on the material. Are there any other board members that have comments, input?
Just briefly, at first blush, the new north elevation, even though I understand your concern about removing the mural, but I think graphically and just visually, the new design, I think, is more pleasing to me. It just feels more balanced, and the mural just felt a little planted on, not really cohesive with the rest of the design of the building.
I can understand that. That does make sense. I think when we had last met to review this, the mural and the discussion point of the mural was really working with the art commission to try to get something that was pleasing and worked with the facade. And so I think that was part of the goal, the ultimate goal. But it's good to hear that you are happy with the changes that, especially since this is the first time that you're reviewing this. So it's good to see that there's that you view that positively.
I mean, I understand, would there be a possibility to ask the developer to put larger trees at that north elevation to address your concern about the trees being too small? Because the 24-inch trees are going to be pretty small.
I don't think that that's something that we can request. Kanika, is that something that we can request larger?
Let's see.
On larger trees, we could ask the applicant for it. And I think the other question is what type of trees they're doing here. I don't have the plan details on what tree species that is, because a 24-inch box, it depends on the species, it may not be that big. Another thing, if you don't mind me, I was thinking if the board would like the ability to put the art there, is definitely ask the applicant if they're up to it, that maybe rather than doing 3 art panel, maybe they could do 1 or 2 art panel on that north elevation between the trees and just do a blank art panel or something, and just have staff and I mean go to the art commission to see what's the appropriate art in there, that maybe it could be a history of South Pasadena or something. So that maybe is an option. If you could see my screen I'm sharing here, is that we got blanks between the tree, because if you put the art panel now, it gives time for the tree to grow, and when the trees go, at least there's still the art behind the tree there. But that's something we could bring the applicant back on for discussion. And if the board member is ready to approve this facade tonight, we could make that as a conditions of approval, so they could move forward. And the art panel, if it's just an art panel that's just gonna go on the face of the building, it's probably not gonna affect the structure of the building. So they could probably proceed to do the facade and then figure out the art at a later date once they get the facade done. And just to remind the board, the sign before you this evening is not ready for approval. So we will have to continue the sign portion of this project, but the board could be ready to approve the facade with added conditions.
And so if the signage is going to be reviewed at a later date, can they still start construction on the facade prior to the approval of the signage?
Yes, if the board approved the facade renovation and a parking lot renovation this evening, let me check one thing. Melinda, do we have conditions of approval ready for this project? It looks like we do.
Yes, we do.
So we could revise the condition here to allow the applicant to move forward with the facade renovation with condition to maybe do the art panel. And then just continue the sign portion. So then just let them move forward to work on the facade and the parking lot renovation.
Great, thank you. Melissa, did you have a question?
I did. From the last meeting, I think it's not definite that they have to provide the art.
That's
right?
correct. They don't know until they go through the building permit process.
Right, so they still don't know yet if they're required to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But do we have the right to request that, even though, like, let's say we find out when they go through the building approval process and they don't, and do we have the right to require them to do that?
To be honest with you, I did not read that section of the code.
Okay.
So I don't have an answer to that because it depends on how it's written. I'm gonna look that up right now.
So I guess if we ask them to do the art and then they don't have to eventually do it.
It looks like the applicant architect is raising his hand. Madam Chair, can I bring him on in?
Yes,
Here?
yes, please. Yes.
Okay. Craig, can you hear us? Cedric?
Okay, we unmuted. Sorry about that. It was our understanding, I mean, we originally did those panels, and we didn't even think of those as art panels. We were doing that just for graphics. And the planning came back and said, oh, well, we could count these as part of your, as part of the city art requirements. And then we didn't really understand what that was meaning in terms of the amount of time and everything, and where that might lead in terms of the process. We had the option of actually just paying a fee for the city art fee and not really doing anything. And so it was actually staff that came up, or Rincon came up with the idea that, that should be, that we could count that as artwork in lieu of paying a fee. And looking at it and looking at the time, we had to move away from that because in our last meeting, we didn't know whether there would be art panels or something totally different. And there didn't seem to be a clear direction in terms of where that was going. And then my partner Gillen has a comment about the art panels versus those 3 screen elements. Gillen?
Yeah, hi. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm Galen Grant, president of the company and principal in charge of design here. And Rick and I have spent a lot of time kind of looking at the original building as it was and imagining what it could be. And I think that the 2 exhibits that we're looking at on the screen right now are really very clear conceptual differences, and Mr. Carlson addressed it in a nice way, where he felt strongly, as I do, that the image at the top, which is our most recent proposal, where we've added the warmer gray cement plaster, we've added the wood at the corners, and then we've brought we've recalled those screens and brought those around to the north elevation. And I think it really kind of anchors that end of the building. I think it gives it some striking features, and it makes that elevation look like it's a part of the front. So it's a part of the whole. And so we feel very good about that. We think that it's more consistent design-wise, and we would prefer that as an architectural solution. And we find the whole building, in terms of what we're trying to do there, becoming very sculptural. And I love the contrast between what we're currently proposing and what the building looks like right now. It's quite a dramatic change, and so it's nice to hear that you're very much in support of the direction that we're headed, and it would be nice to get your approval this evening.
Madam Chair, it looks like our mayor have her hand up. Can we bring her on too? Madam
Sure.
Mayor?
Thank you. I just thought, I just checked our municipal code, and in order to address the question whether or not this is subject to our public art requirement in our municipal code, there is a requirement. The public art program applies to a development project, which among other things is defined to include any remodeling project of an existing commercial or industrial building. So I just wanted to provide that clarification for your benefit.
She's leaving out that there was a, we can either
Great,
pay a
thank you.
fee or do the artwork.
Yeah. Maybe you want to mention
I
that.
may. Sorry, Melissa, were you going to say something?
You go ahead. Okay, you go first.
Well, I was just gonna mention that, you know, should the artwork go through, I think is a really lovely touch as it echoes, I don't know, speaking to the project people. If you've driven around town much, we have these electrical boxes that the arts people have decorated, have painted, and it's a nice, this piece on the side of the building would be a nice echo to that. Supporting the arts in the city, which we obviously do heavily support in this city. I just think it's nice if you do go that direction.
Thank you, Board Member Younger. Vice Chair, did you have another?
Yeah, I mean, for my preference, I prefer the black panels with, you know, over not knowing what the artwork would be like on these panels, because if those panels were replaced with art, these are very large panels. And I would prefer these panels over what it potentially could be in terms of art, and knowing that they have to do the art, they're subject to the art requirement, and they're willing to just pay the money to fulfill that, then that money is going towards artwork that will go somewhere on something that would be decided and approved within the art commission, you know, and versus like being forced to put artwork on these panels, which is, I feel like I prefer this staying as an architectural element.
I think that's a very valid point. It's a really good, because it's true, we don't know what the art, I'm also reluctant to say, okay, remove the panels and put some kind of mural or artwork without having seen what it is, right? We just saw the previous version, and that we responded by saying that we were not in favor of it, but maybe a different art piece. But it seems like it sounds like the applicant is also not necessarily interested in going that route, that they may just pay the art fee. So in that case, I'm also, it sounds like the rest of the board is relatively comfortable with those three panels, the black panels at the far northwest. So I ultimately, for me, I feel that it's big improvement just in general from the existing structure. So I'm leaning towards approving the project to allow the applicant to move forward, start construction. I don't know how the other members feel.
I feel the same way. The panels are fine. They truly are. And the fact that the whatever fees the applicant has to pay goes to the Arts Commission, I think that's wonderful. Sure.
Yep. Great. So does anyone? Sorry, go on. Sorry.
I agree with you. I feel comfortable approving the facade renovation.
I do too.
Okay, great, excellent. So does anyone would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Great, thank you. Do we have a second? Oh, second. Excellent. So all in favor, say aye. Actually, let me go through everyone individually.
Can you go?
Oh, yes, Kanika. Oh, she's
Madam
muted.
Chair, can we make clear that this motion is only to approve the facade renovation, but continuation of the sign? Because the sign as proposed needs to be evaluated for compliance with our code.
Yes. So the motion is only to approve the facade and does not include the signage portion, and that will be reviewed at a later date.
And the parking lot, correct? Kanika, is it?
Right, facade and parking lot renovation. And I'm going through the conditions right now to make sure that there's no condition here that we need to remove per the board's discussion. Lisa or Melinda, are there any specific condition that we need to remove from here before the board makes the action?
No, there are none.
Madam Chair, I would respectfully suggest that you also include in a motion the very strong suggestion that the applicant reconsider the sizing of the proposed trees, because you're absolutely right. It will take, depending upon the species, it will take them a while. And the city does have a schedule of, I believe it's preferred trees. We've got specifically identified drought tolerant trees. But I think a strong suggestion would be helpful to the applicant.
Lisa, do you know what tree species they're proposing there?
It looks like on their
They
plan,
have
they're proposing.
Chinese pistache.
Is that what they currently have on the site right now?
No, right now they're evergreen flowering pear.
I thought on this site, on the landscape plan, I saw they were to match existing.
I thought so too. That's what I remember from November.
Yeah, the proposed I see is Chinese pistache and one other.
Madam Chair, I would suggest maybe asking the applicant if they're willing to put in a big tree species for the north elevation. He's still online with us and he has his hand up.
Okay. Cedric, would you mind unmuting yours, or does Melinda or Kanika? Oh, there we go. He's unmuted.
I think Paul is one. Paul Herman from Alverson is also on too to speak on that.
Hi, we would be okay increasing the size of the trees on that north elevation there, as long as it meets whatever requirements you guys have for the species. That's fine by us.
Great, thank you. So Kanika, can we add that into the motion, just that we request that the trees be larger?
Well, let's be more specific in that we'll add a condition saying that the size of the tree species will be a larger size as approved by the chair. So that way this give us time to go back and work with the applicant on the tree species and size that's appropriate. And then it will be a chair approval.
Okay.
So that way they can
Great.
move forward with the lot renovation, the parking lot renovation. The size of the tree is not going to change the planter size. It's only the selection of the tree species.
Okay, great. So does that need to be repeated? The motion, approval, and the condition?
If that's the direction that the board wants, staff can work on a condition and send it to the chair for final approval.
No, the motion can just be in accordance with the discussion held with the latest discussion held by the commission.
Okay, great, excellent, perfect. So, so we made the motion. There was a second, and so now we're going to go through and we'll ask each board member, Vice Chair Tsai.
Yes.
Board Member Younger.
Yes.
And Board Member Carlson.
Yes.
Great, excellent. So a motion was made by Board Member Younger and second by Board Member Carlson, and that passed by a vote of 4-0. And so the project is approved with the condition for looking at the size of the trees on the north facade and upsizing them. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, excellent, thank you. So now moving on to item number 4. Is this, Melinda, does Board Member Smeaton need to rejoin before we move into item number 4?
Yes, I'm
Madam
bringing
Chair,
him
yes.
on.
Okay.
He should be joining us shortly here.
Excellent. I see Mark is back. So now moving on to item number 4, which is a continued item for the demolishment of a single family home and a design review of two new homes and a 5-car underground garage at 1502 Bank Street. Staff report, please.
Good evening. Before you tonight is a continued design review item from the November 5th, 2020 DRB meeting. The project is located at 1502 Bank Street, project number 2328 NID DRX. This project includes notice of demolition for a single-family home and 1-car garage, and design review for the development of 2 new single-family homes that are 2-story. In August, the CHC decided the property did not meet criteria for historic designation, so the project was then brought before the board. At the November 5th hearing, the project was continued to allow the applicant a chance to revise the plans based on the meeting discussions. This is a look at the previous front elevation of Building A. It was requested the applicant lower the height of the building and the garage, improve the entryway, including the door style, extending the eaves, remove excessive lighting, and provide wrought iron details. The revised plan for Building A first floor level went from 10-foot plate height to 9.5 feet. From curb line to roof line, the structure is now lowered by 1.5 feet in total. For Building A, the roof line of the porch has been slightly lowered. The front door has been revised to reflect a more Spanish-like architectural style. The rafter tails now extend out 12 inches and are curved. The applicant has also illustrated additional detail to the wrought iron throughout the project. This slide illustrates the front elevation to the back Building B. You can see excessive lighting has been removed. The doorway is lowered, and in place of the previous awning is a tiled roof awning for easier maintenance. This is the new color board showing the outdoor lighting, decorative tile, and entry door wood color. In meeting with the applicant, staff requested an alternative entryway design be provided. The alternative has an even lower roof line and wraps the wrought iron around the balcony. The east elevations for Building A and B have been designed with several architectural features to break up the story wall plane, which includes second-story balconies with decorative railings, recessed windows, and varied recessed wall planes on Building A. Although the east elevation of Building A does not meet the 3-foot setback requirement for the second story, staff recommends approval of this elevation as proposed due to the architectural detail that adds articulation to the side of the building and breaks up the massing. The revised plans above extend the wrought iron railing, and the excessive lighting has been removed. Lighting is now featured at front entries. This shows west side elevation. In previous conditions, staff recommended a 3-foot vertical recess to Building A and a sloped roof element at the rear side portion of the building to further break up the building mass. The applicant has now provided a 2.5-foot recess for Building A and has incorporated a sloped roof element at the rear side portion of the building and has extended the wrought iron railing above. This is the rear elevation, which contains large recessed windows, second-story balconies, and varied roof articulation with tile work. The revised version now includes a horizontal trim between the first and second floor of Building B, and excessive lighting has been removed. Staff recommends the following condition of approval: that the applicant shall submit a revised plan for review and approval by the chair of the Design Review Board that incorporates the alternative entryway design with the following: to further lower the clay tile roof above the front door such that the top of the roof slope aligns with the bottom of the balcony, to create a pedestrian scale design, and continue the wrought iron metal railing for the balcony along the second. Staff recommends that the Design Review Board approve the demolition of the existing house and garage and approve the design review permit and alternative entryway design subject to conditions of approval. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Great, thank you, staff. So now we're going to move into questions for the staff. So Vice Chair Tsai, do you have any questions for the staff?
I have no questions.
Great, thank you. Board Member Smeaton.
I do not have any questions for staff either.
Great, thank you. Board Member Carlson.
No questions, no.
Board Member Younger.
No questions.
Okay, great, thank you. I also do not have any questions for the staff. So I will now open the public hearing. Staff, were there any public comments for this item?
Yes, there was one public comment.
Great, thank you. Do you mind giving us just a synopsis of that public comment?
Sure. We had a comment that was sad to see the demolition of the structure, but understanding, and would like to see the fruit trees on the property somehow be relocated or transplanted, as well as that construction not begin until next year.
Great. So in terms of construction, this is a question for the staff. In terms of holding off on construction, is that something that the city has the ability to control? It sounds like there's a tenant issue as well. Is that correct?
Right. That is not something that we could usually condition.
Okay. So yeah, we can't condition that. I just wanted to understand kind of that the public comment and what's within the city's control and what is not something that can be conditioned. So, and what about for the trees? Is that something that can also be conditioned where they're relocated?
And I would suggest maybe talking with the applicant and asking the applicant if that is something that they would consider.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so do we have a presentation from the applicant?
We do not have a presentation, but they should be in the audience.
Okay, great. I will wait for them to join.
Lisa, who is the applicant for this project?
This is Kobe Blake
Okay.
and June here.
Okay, Madam Chair, Kobe is on the line with us.
Great, thank you. Welcome, Kobe. So at this point, do any of the board members have questions for the applicant? I'll call on each board member individually. Vice Chair Tsai.
I have no questions.
Great, thank you. Board Member Smeaton.
I just want to, couple things. I want to thank the applicant for the revisions that they have made to the project. By lowering it 18 inches is, I think, helping out a lot along that street elevation by doing that. I thank them for that. And also the west side revisions of pulling that part of that facade in, giving some more shadow line, breaking up that long length. I think that was very good. Rafter tails, I appreciate that. I think that adds a little better detailing than what we had with the foam. So I really want to thank the applicant for that. My question that or one of my questions that I have is the only real question that I have is the entry, the alternate entry and the non-alternate, the current entry. Would the applicant, it looks like that those arches have a, not at the spring line, but at the top of the arch is about a 9'6" height from steps to that arch. And that, I think they got that off of a dimension. So that's probably somewhere similar to the header height of the first floor windows. So my concern is that with that alternate entry is you always want some meat up above that arch. And it just doesn't seem to have it with, there's a 3D that we're showing here, the two side by side in 3D form. And there's just not enough meat on that alternate. Yeah, that one right there, yeah. you can see the one to the left, that it's just with that shallow, it's a more shallower roof line. And then if we keep that arch that high, we either could drop that arch height down to 8 feet or something like that to go into the porch. Or if I'm picking between the two, I would rather have it stay with the proposed as opposed to the alternate. So those are my comments. I don't know if the applicant, Kobe, would like to talk about that a bit.
Hi, this is Kobe. Would you guys allow June, who is an architect, answer the question instead of me?
Yes.
Hi, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your comments. That was kind of as an architect, we had a kind of dilemma here. The proposed that we want to have a arch spring line, which is kind of have some room, nice little like room for the arch, historical arch you enjoy more. But then we have some kind of we kind of stuck to the comments from the last design board meetings that the wrought iron balcony all the way to the left side massing. So kind of we had to kind of study. That's why we proposed the front elevation. As an architect, I think this is better for the kind of architecturally. It's a lot of clean detail. But then we had a kind of a submitted alternative design for the still you want to keep the arch a little bit at least the same as a window headroom, which is about 9 feet. So that's why we kind of let us stop. But if board member kind of today study or discuss, and if you guys allow to us to move on our proposed elevation will really will be really appreciated. But if it's we still need to a little bit lower the front entry, we go for like alternative. We made just a little bit lower arch, like 8 feet 6 or 8. It's still like I think it's 8 feet. We try. It's a little too low at the design proportion for this architecture. It's a little looks ambiguous. So I mean, our kind of we will do whatever you guys suggest today. So yeah, we're open for that. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Board Member Smee, do you have any other questions?
I do not have any other questions about the design. I think it's in the right direction, and then I was just hoping we can maybe resolve to all of our liking that front entry piece and be done with it. That's all I have.
Okay, great, thank you. Board Member Carlson, do you have any questions for the applicant?
No, no questions.
Great, thank you. Board Member Younger, do you have any questions?
No, no questions.
And I also have no questions for the applicant. So we will now close the public hearing and we'll have a discussion amongst ourselves. So I'm going to ask that everybody unmute yourselves, and I will randomly call on Board Member Carlson. If you want to kind of start the discussion.
Well, I just wanted to clarify what Mark was saying, and I didn't quite understand what the architect, what the solution would be, but is it possible in the alternative entryway to reduce that arch height so it has the same scale as the original proposed? Is that possible physically? Is there headroom and all that?
I think so. I mean, a 9 foot, I understand what the architect's saying, 9 foot's nice, and kind of wanting it to line up with the window header heights, but it's an entry piece kind of on its own. I mean, it's an entry vestibule. I think those arches can drop down to 8 foot, give us more meat on top of the arch to the spring line, to the roof line, and it's a done deal. It works.
Yeah.
I think it'll look more comfortable to me.
No, I agree. The alternative view just looks, there's almost a tangency between the roof line and the top of the arch.
Correct, right.
It just feels kind of odd.
I agree with
I
Mark.
agree as well.
Go ahead.
The only thing I appreciate what they had done with the alternative because they were trying to bring the wrought iron railing across, and I think that makes it a little bit lighter, which is nice, as opposed to the proposed where it resolves the archway and the meat above the archway that as we've been so eloquently referring to it. But the solid piece of the balustrade, the balcony, is not as, I think, appealing, but for me personally, it's more important that that archway and that entryway, because it's the first thing you see, it's the most prominent, it's close to the street, that's resolved, and as opposed to kind of trying to solve the wrought iron railing issue. So that's my 2 cents. But other than that, for me, I know that the rest of the project, they seem to address all of our concerns previously, and I think they've done a good job at bringing it in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like all the elevations are well proportioned now, in comparison to the original design. So I really appreciate that, and actually really like the design. And I agree, the alternate entry, when I first saw it, I was like, there was something about it that I prefer the proposed, but now that, with bringing that arch down, I feel like that would balance everything. And so I agree with what everyone's
I
said.
think we had a confirmation from the applicant that they would be willing to pretty much accept bringing that down a little bit if it would gain them approval. So I think we're getting close here.
So would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll do it. I make a motion that we approve the design as submitted on the revision, with the additional revision of the alternative entry elevation, but also dropping the arches on, I guess it's all three sides of that entry vestibule, down to 8 feet. If they were currently at 9, 1 foot will do it. So 8 foot, it's still plenty to walk through. It's plenty high enough. I think it'll be fine. So that would be, I got wordy all of a sudden, sorry. that's it in a nutshell.
Great, thank you. Would anybody like to second that motion?
I'll second that.
Great, thank you. So a motion was made by Board Member Smeaton and a second by Vice Chair Tsai. So we'll take roll call. Vice Chair Tsai?
Yes.
Yes. Board Member Younger?
Yes.
Board Member Carlson?
Yes.
And Board Member Smeaton?
Yes.
And for myself, yes, as well. Great. So it passes by a vote of 5-0, and this project is approved with the one condition regarding the entryway and the arch and the height of the arches. This decision is final unless an appeal is filed within 15 days from today. No construction or activity may commence during this period. Appeal forms may be obtained from the city clerk's office. Thank you. So we are now moving on to our next item. This next item, number 5, is at 1230 Cole Avenue. Is there anyone, any board member who must recuse themselves due to distance for this project?
I have to recuse myself again.
Okay, great.
I'll see you in the backside.
Melinda or Kanika, do we need to turn off Mark's video? There we go.
They did, but okay, he's gone.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
actually
excellent.
took him off.
So Madam Chair, I would like to introduce to you Veronica, who is our contract planner working on this project.
Great, thank you. welcome, Veronica. So our next item is item number 5. It's a design review and minor hillside development for 1230 Cole Avenue. Before we proceed, I ask board member, oh, sorry, we already recused himself. And once this item commences, we'll have board member Smeaton join us. Staff report, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Design Review Board. The project before you is project number 2307, a design review and hillside development permit for property at 1230 Cole Avenue. The request before you tonight is for design review approval for a 657 square foot addition to an existing tri-level single-family home and removal of a wood deck and covered patio on the 3rd level that exists in the rear. Also, approval for a hillside development permit allowing construction on a site with an average slope of 20% or greater. The zoning for the site is residential single family, and as proposed, the project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act for section 15301, class 1. This is an aerial view of the site off of Cole Avenue, surrounded by single family homes. This is a street view of the existing home, showing the metal grille feature on top of the prominent window. This is the site plan. The red shows the area that will be removed, and the green showing the area that will be added on the 2nd level. This is a view of the west elevation, which is the front view. The existing master bedroom to be removed here, and what the addition will look like once it's complete with the slanted roof. This is a view of the north elevation, which is a side view. The deck and covered patio here, the bedroom to be removed here, the HVAC unit that's existing on the rooftop to be removed, and what the addition will look like once it's complete. This area down here is currently habitable space that will be converted into uninhabitable space to function as an outdoor covered area. This is a view of the opposite side, the south elevation. The master bedroom to be removed here, the patio and deck to be removed, and the proposed showing what the addition will look like. This is the view of the proposed and existing rear elevation. This is a three-dimensional view of the front of the home with a glance of the northerly elevation in the back. This is a three-dimensional view of the northern elevation showing the flat roof slanted slightly with skylights on top that will provide natural light to the new hallway. A skylight feature here to provide natural light to the new stairway system. New recessed fiberglass windows with a metal canopy feature above them. The balcony, which will also be metal, and it will complement the feature that's in the front of the home. And this area here that will serve as the outdoor covered patio. This is a 3D view of the opposite side, showing the skylights, showing the windows and the canopies. The stucco will be tinted in a slight olive green to match the existing color of the house, and the roof material is proposed to match the existing color and type of the house. Project-specific conditions for this project are: construction plan submitted for plan check must clearly show all existing proposed for removal and new retaining walls. A detailed plan showing footing, height, type of material, and exterior color and finish of new walls must be included. All retaining walls visible from the public right-of-way must not exceed 3 feet in height and must be screened with landscaping material. All other retaining walls not visible from the public street shall not exceed 6 feet in height. Construction plans must show the HVAC equipment to be in a location not visible from the street and must not be on the rooftop. Finally, construction plans submitted for plan check must be in substantial conformance with the approved plans by the Design Review Board, including but not limited to floor plans, elevation plan, exterior colors and materials, roof type and design, and the ornate decorative building elements. Given that the floor area ratio calculated for this project is at 0.34 and the maximum allowed is 0.35, the applicant and or future owners cannot apply to convert the uninhabitable space on the 2nd level into habitable space, as this will exceed the maximum allowed floor area ratio. The Design Review Board has options to consider: approve as proposed the project without changes, or approve with modifications to the conditions and/or design, or continue the project to a future public hearing and direct the applicant to make changes to the project, or to deny the project. Staff's recommendation is for the Design Review Board to approve the project as proposed and issue design review approval and the hillside development permit, subject to the conditions of approval in the staff report for property located at 1230 Cole Avenue. This concludes staff's presentation, and I'm available for questions. The architect is also here to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you, Veronica. So do any of the board members have questions for the staff? Vice Chair Sai?
I have no questions for staff.
Great, thank you. Board Member Carlson?
No questions.
Thank you. Board Member Younger?
No questions.
Great, thank you. I actually do, I just have one question. It's more of a clarification for the condition when you mentioned in the report, or excuse me, the presentation about the 0.34 FAR and that they couldn't, they therefore couldn't remodel the uninhabitable space. What, can you
Yes.
kind of clarify that condition?
Yes, are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear Veronica.
Okay. Are you able to see me? I can't see me.
No, we can't see you, but we can hear you.
Oh, that's odd. Okay, I will answer the question. Are you able to see the plans that I'm scrolling through right now?
No, we see the presentation says questions. It was the last slide that was up.
Okay. Let me, so stop share. And now you can see me. Hi. And I will share. Okay, I'll share that one. So, whiteboard, here we go. Okay. So a part of the work that is being proposed in the interior is to convert existing habitable space here in this area into uninhabitable space. And because with the addition, the project is so close to them reaching the maximum floor area ratio of 3.5, this property owner or any future property owner would not be able to come and convert this same area back into habitable space. Say down the line, they want to convert it into a bedroom or a sitting area, a living room area in the back. So that's what that condition means.
Understood. But they would have the option to do, say, like a junior ADU or something in the future, because that doesn't count towards the FAR, but it's just for that portion right now. And if it's going to be something that's for the main structure, main house.
Yes.
Correct. Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate that. So now that we're questions for the staff, we're now going to open the public hearing. Staff, were there any public comments for this item?
Yes, there were 2 public comments and both from residents who support the project as proposed.
Great, excellent, thank you. So do we have the applicant on, and does the applicant have a presentation? I can't hear, sorry. Veronica, you're muted.
Sorry. I'm not, Veronica, does the applicant have a presentation for this?
Yes, they do.
Okay, can we play the applicant presentation?
Yes.
My name is Jim Fensky. I'm the architect for the Kawais who live at 1230 Cole. They would like to do a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, second-story addition to the rear of their existing home.
I think you need to go to the next slide.
The existing home has a garage, 2-car garage at the ground level at the street, and a second main level that extends all the way to the rear of the structure, and a third level, which is a master bedroom level with a bathroom. And that's where, at the third level, that's where we're going to do the addition, which will extend it further east. The roof will be a shed type of roof, sloping from south to north, and we'll have 4 skylights in it with a 5th skylight at the stair. The windows and doors will be made by Marvin. They will be oil rub bronze color, fiberglass. The skylight will be same color, fiberglass, made by Velux. The landscaping will, for the most part, remain the same, except at the southeast corner where the retaining walls will change at the south and the east. The existing floor plan and demolition plan shows that the bedroom furthest to the west on that main level will be changed and turned into an office, and the back 2 bedrooms will be abandoned. This first floor plan shows the garage at the street level, and the dashed lines indicate where the second level and the third level is hatched at the far east. This proposed plan shows the bedroom turned into the office with a stair next to it, and the abandoned back rooms turned into a utility room and an open patio. The third level shows the 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, and the existing plan above it. This sheet shows the east elevation proposed and existing, as well as the north elevation, where you can see the patio and the balcony and one of the sunscreen structures. If you look at the existing and proposed west elevation at the bottom of this sheet, you can see how the new structure isn't much taller than the existing structure. And if you look at the south elevation, you can see how the front of the building blocks the view mostly from the street, of the addition from the street. This sheet of sections shows where the skylights are and the basic massing of the building relative to. This detail sheet shows the eaves and the sunscreen detail, which is to match the existing sunscreen detail, as well as the balcony detail. The majority of the grading is at the very rear east end of the building, especially the southeast where the 2 retaining walls come together. It's less than 50 yards. This street view of the model shows how most of the building covers the addition. As seen here in the back, you can see one of the sunscreens on the south elevation. This view from the street looking east, at the northeast corner, you can see the back addition with the balcony. This is a view from the south looking at the south elevation. Here's a view looking from the northwest towards the addition. You can see the balcony and the exterior patio and the sunscreens and the skylights. This color material board shows the torch down roofing, the stucco finish and color, the Marvin cut sheet for doors and windows, the light that will be on the south elevation, the light on the east elevation, and the light on this elevation north, which matches the light at the front.
And that is the conclusion of the applicant's presentation.
Great, thank you. So now we'll go into questions for the applicant. Board member, Vice Chair Sai.
Is the applicant on the line? Oh, he is.
Yeah.
I do just have one question, but before I ask, I really appreciate the design. I think it's a tremendous improvement of what is currently existing there based off the pictures. And I really appreciate the little details that are, carried over from the existing home. I really like the style of the front of the house. So I really appreciate that being continued on with the addition. I do have one quick question about the eave. It seems a little exaggerated, and the proportion seems is very different from the existing eave. So I just wanted to ask what the reasoning is behind it, because I see that there are sun screening over some of the windows. So, I'm just curious.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, this is the one question. This is the one thing that I thought you would ask about. I really did. So I was vacillating back and forth between exposed eave timbers so that it looked more like over the entry. You could bring it, tie them together that way. And I left it like this, and the client wants to have a large overhang just for shading. I think it would be pretty powerful if it was not stuccoed and had exposed eave beams, but I don't think I think that's the one thing I was worried about, was that it didn't tie into the front quite enough. So, I mean, the question was there, yes.
Okay. That was my only question.
Great, thank you, Vice Chair. Board Member Carlson, do you have any questions for the applicant?
No, no questions.
Great, thank you. Board Member Younger, do you have any questions for the applicant?
No questions.
Okay, great, thank you. I do have one question, and I understand you've got the stairwell that connects the existing to the new addition in the back, and it's got this small pop-up and it's slanted roof with a skylight there. Do you mind just kind of speaking to the reasoning behind that? For me, it looks a little awkward, and it almost, I know you won't see it from the street, but it almost has this like smiley face. It looks like a nose, eyes, and to me, it was the most jarring part of the design. But overall, I agree with the Vice Chair Sai that did an excellent job kind of tying it with the original design and the quality of the materials, the massing, I think, and the slope of the roof looks great. It's just that one item that I'm having trouble kind of understanding.
Yeah, it's the way I reconcile with that issue is that it is in the back. You can't really see it, and if you're walking around the house, you can't see it. You'd have to climb on the wall next door or the roof next door and look down. So for me, it's like it's not necessary evil, but what it does on the inside is that you're walking down the hall from the bedrooms and you see out that window towards the view across the canyon. So there was no way to do that from any public space inside the house unless you built another second story. So I wanted to have that and not have to add any more structure than I had to, because the existing building is a URM. So everything, I mean, you can see how the addition straddles the whole. I mean, we can't touch the thing. It's just not, you can't stack anything on it. So as light as possible. I did have something going across the front at one point that stepped one roof slowly down to the existing roof, you know, all the way across, but it's too heavy. And it's a huge expense just for one skylight and access via the stair. Yeah, I agree with you, but I think this is it's kind of the less expensive way out for a skylight at least.
I actually understand that. That's a great response. And I've actually been in the same spot where I've had to do something similar. So I understand that solution. So I'm not opposed. I was just curious as to what kind of limits were, or if that was more of the, that was the ultimate goal, because it is a bit, like I said, it's a bit jarring because it's really pretty massing. You've got, it's very, it steps up, it works with the hillside. And so I really appreciate, that was just the one item that, that I noticed that, like I said, was a bit jarring for me. But your point, Jim, you can't see it from the street, at least based on the perspectives that I saw. It doesn't seem like it's visible, and it really won't be even visible when you're at grade there, even for the homeowner. So, so it's not for me, it's not a huge issue. But that was my only question. Okay, so now we are done with the questions for the applicant. So I will close the public hearing and we will have a discussion amongst ourselves. So I'm just going to ask all the board members to unmute yourself, and I'm going to call on board member Younger to start the discussion.
I really have not much to say except that I really like the design. I look forward to seeing it. I'm familiar with the house. My friends used to live across the street. This is a really nice addition, nice facelift to it. That's all.
Great, thank you. I agree with that. I think that it's, as I mentioned previously, I think that the massing's done very nicely. The roof is, the slight slope in the roof, it ties in, it's got this contemporary feel that ties into the modern style of the house at the front. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate the way it works and steps up with the hillside.
Yeah, I'm sure the homeowners are going to love this.
It's a very nice design. Does anyone else have any other comments?
I have one comment. I should have asked the architect, but I believe it's the north elevation. There's an awning on one window, but not the other two windows. And I wonder, what kind of living space is inside there? Does anybody know that? Or
Sorry, which, on the north elevation in?
I believe it's the north elevation. It's the one where you were looking at the skylight. I believe it's the north elevation. It's the opposite of what I'm seeing on the screen, right? The opposite side of the
south
I'm seeing right now.
The south elevation. Oh,
okay, south elevation. Sorry.
So you want to go to the rendering?
Yes, I'm just wondering, those two other windows there, why they don't have an awning? Is it not necessary? I mean, from a design standpoint, it might be more interesting, but if it's not necessary, I guess it's not.
Oh, sorry. Hey, stop. Sorry. Hey. Sorry. We could add one. We could add it. It is the south. It's a perfect place for an awning.
What kind of space is in there? I mean, would it be of value inside the house? Would it?
It's a bedroom. It's a bedroom. So that's probably what I'd be glad to add a sun screen there. You know,
if that was my bedroom south facing, I'd like an awning. That'd be nice.
Okay, fine with me.
On the drawings, it doesn't show an awning over that window. It's like on the rendering, it has the awning, but on the drawings, it does not have awning. I don't see it.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, I would add that. I would add that to the orthogonal drawing, the 2D drawing.
So for me, it's not a deal breaker if everyone likes the design as is, but the exaggerated eave does kind of, I don't love it. But it's not a deal breaker. I don't know. That's just me. So.
It was one of the things that the client asked for directly. That extended eave. We went from a shortened eave to something deep
Yeah.
in order to get shading.
Well, if you're adding sunshades to all the windows on the south side,
Right.
that kind of solves that problem. And you don't really need the extended eave on the north as much.
True. Yeah.
So what, I mean, what do the other board members think about that?
Well, for me with the eave, it's interesting because I think having an asymmetrical, if the eve were asymmetrical and one were closer, one weren't as, exaggerated, and the other were, that may not necessarily be a bad thing for, for shading purposes, but I'd have to see it first in order to say, yes, that's acceptable. So if they're like, if the eve and the length of the eve is due to a functional purpose, like shading, and they want to use the space and the exterior, and that, I understand that, and I can relate to that, and I would support that. But to Melissa's point, the north side, do you really need that? Is that the case? And so could you bring that in some? But then I don't know how that would balance the design, if it would make it look awkward because you've got one eve that's exaggerated and one that is not. And so I'm not.
Well, I was kind of asking to bring it in all around now that they're going to add that sunshade over the windows on the south side. So I got my request was see, I wouldn't want it asymmetrical. I want it all to come in together. But now that we don't really need it on the south side, since they have that shade, we're requesting to have that to add this shade structure over the south windows. Do we need that exaggerated eve all around?
Well, can I speak?
Yes.
Oh, well, I mean, look at that rendering that's up there that Veronica has up there. It's pretty dramatic. It's one of those, I like it just because it's dramatic, it has a pretty strong presence. I mean, a shortened eve would, I don't know. I like it because there's more of it. And I don't know that, I mean, that's why I initially added the sunscreen on that side too, because even though there's several trees and a telephone pole, I mean, you're not likely to see any of this, but if all of that was cut down, then you'd see this roof. I kind of like that there's something kind of dramatic back there that rises up. It's more of a architectural statement than a necessity, really. It's pretty high up. It's away from the windows on the south. It's not needed. It won't shade it, but I mean, you can see the shading that the computer program has given me. It doesn't cover the windows. So I like it just because I like it, and it's then the owner wanted it, and so I'm happy to provide it. I was thinking of anything, if anything, that we'd remove the soffit and expose some of the timbers, maybe do 4x, so it tied in, or 6x, so it tied into the detail over the entry. But if you want, we could do a chair review, and I could give a couple of options: shortened, lengthened beams, stucco soffit, no stucco soffit. What do you think?
I think if the other board members like the dramatic eve, it's not a deal breaker for me. I like the design of this edition a lot. So that's just one little tiny bit of it that it's not a deal breaker. So
okay, thanks.
Jim, I like your recommendation of maybe doing some options, particularly tying it in with the front and seeing what that might look like. I don't know if you've done those studies previously, perhaps you have. Just because I think that might tie it in, although that could take away from the contemporary look of it. So I don't know. It's hard for me to say, you know, without seeing it. The only other thing I would say is I think my concern is that the slope of the roof, the new addition, it seems like it's pretty shallow. What's the slope of that, if you could remind me?
I think it's 3 and 12, or no, I think it's 4 and 12. It should be on the roof plan. Can we
Okay.
let's see. Is it on that roof plan there? No, further up. Roof plan, roof plan.
My point is just that I'd be concerned that if you bring the eaves in and you've got a relatively, well, 4 and 12 isn't necessarily shallow. It appears that way in the renderings and in the drawings to me, that then it would almost look kind of squat. So then I would say, if you're gonna bring in the eaves, I'd recommend doing a more extreme slope in the roof.
Yeah, yeah. I like that it's shallow and that they really stick out like that. It does look kind of mid-century, well, modern.
Yeah.
So I think they go together, that shallow pitch and the deep eaves.
That's kind of how, that's my, and without seeing other alternatives or other studies, or that's my sense too, that the slope, the extended eaves work with the slope, that once you start bringing them back, I would say my gut is telling me that you then have to create a more dramatic slope, at least to get that effect. It makes this, you know, architectural massing, this piece that kind of stands out. I'm okay with the eave overhangs. I don't know how board member Younger or Carlson, how do you feel about the extension of the eaves?
I actually, I think I like it the way it is. I agree with Jim's comment about the kind of mid-century post and beam feel with that overhang. I think the proportion looks good, actually.
I have no problem with it. I think it's kind of nice. It's nice, it's balanced. It's a little nod to Japanese architecture as well.
All right, exactly. Thank you. Thanks for saying that.
Yeah.
Excellent, great. So if there aren't any other comments, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, great.
I was at a motion to approve the project.
So a motion to approve the project with any, with the current conditions of approval per the staff report.
And adding the sunshades on the south elevation.
With the condition of adding the sunshade. Okay, great.
One question,
So
excuse me, one question to the board. The sunshade, would that be to the 2 windows on the south elevation or only one of the windows?
I would recommend both the windows.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, both windows, great. So that is the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Excellent. So all in favor, I'm going to call on each individual. Please say yay or nay. Vice Chair Tsai.
Yay.
Excuse me, Board Member Carlson.
Yay.
Board Member Younger.
Yay.
And myself, yes. So the project is approved and passes by a vote of 5-0. This project is approved subject to the conditions of approval. This decision is final unless an appeal is filed within 15 days from today. No construction or activity may commence during this period. Appeal forms may be obtained from the city clerk's office. Thank you.
Madam Chair, for clarification on the south elevation, that sunshade, is it one sunshade over the 2 windows or 2 individual sunshades?
Without knowing the dimensions of the space, it's hard to, I mean, I see it as 2 sunshades, but if the architect thinks that they're close enough together that it should be 1, and balance better with the other one, I would leave that kind of up to him. That would be my comment.
I agree with that as well. I envision them as being two, but again, depending on the dimensions and the functionality of it, I'd leave it up to the architect.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I now ask that board member Smeaton rejoin us, please. Excellent, welcome back. So we are now we are now moving on to item number 6. This is a design review for an addition at 1804 Mylon Avenue. Is there anyone that needs to recuse themselves for this specific project, Melissa? I don't see that on.
Madam Chair, no, not for this item.
Okay, great. Just checking. Thank you. So does the staff have a presentation?
Yes, so for this project, it was also by our contract planner, Lisa, and she will start the staff report.
Great, thank you very much.
Good evening, Chairperson, members of the board. This is a design review request for a remodel at 804 Milan Avenue, project number 2357 DR. The project includes remodeling a 2,623 square foot home with a 457 square foot addition to the first floor, a 339 square foot addition to the second floor in the rear, a 191 square foot front porch covering an expanded foyer, a 296 square foot loggia or breezeway that connects the house to a study and existing guest house. Lastly, the applicant requests a change to the architectural detail of the residence to better align with the materials and style of the neighborhood with a contemporary craftsman cottage style. This project is located in a residential single-family zone near the intersection of Hope Street and Milan Avenue in the northeast of Mission Historic District. The house itself was built in 1970 and is not a contributor to the district. This is a street view of the existing residence, which is situated between two-story craftsman homes. From this view, you can see that the residence is smaller in scale, height, and is set back further from the street than the neighboring homes, which are decades older. This is the existing site plan, showing the outline of the existing home and guest house in solid green. The front pergola adjoining the garage and the pergola extending between the main residence and the guest house are shown in hatched green. The proposed additions here are highlighted in yellow. In keeping with general craftsman look, a front porch extends toward the front back setback in lieu of the existing pergola. Towards the rear is the second-story addition, which maintains the existing 23-foot height of the structure. Along the first floor is an addition that extends the dining area to an open loggia onto a study that connects to the existing guest house. A pergola is proposed to connect to the existing guest house, also shown in hatched yellow. This shows what the neighboring properties look like, many of them being craftsman, many of them being two-story. This shows the existing west elevation as viewed from the street. The applicant describes the residence as architecturally nondescript with stucco siding and brickwork to the garage. The existing divided light casement windows that you see here are to remain, and the applicant proposes to continue this window style throughout. As mentioned, the applicant wishes to add architectural details that are more in line with the neighborhood by removing the stucco and brick siding and proposing alternating 4 and 8-inch shiplap wood siding, adding a porch with arroyo stone plinths and brackets. A mini pergola is also proposed along the face of the garage at the front entry door, and garage door are updated to complement the new look. The existing east elevation or rear side shows what the back of the house appears, with casement windows and doors with divided light and buttons. Proposed east elevation includes a more contemporary look and expansive glazing in the siding glass doors. Staff is recommending that the amount of glazing be reduced and that the style of door coordinate with the existing and proposed windows for a more consistent look. This slide illustrates the existing north elevation from the side.
And this is the proposed north side elevation, showing the extent of the addition that moves all the way to the guest house. This is the existing south side elevation. This is the proposed south elevation side view that shows the extent of the addition towards the back of the house that extends the loggia to the guest house. Staff recommends the Design Review Board approve the design review subject to conditions of approval. Other options include approving with conditions added, continue the project to address comments discussed, or deny the project. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Great, thank you, staff. We'll now ask, if any of the board members have questions for the staff. Board member or Vice Chair Sai.
I have no questions.
Madam Chair, I also wanted to remind the board that the applicant did make a request to delete condition in P14 from consideration.
Can you remind us what P14 was?
Yes, I can share it on the screen. One moment.
Great, thank you.
Is for the applicant to submit revised plans for review by the chair for the reduction of the amount of door glazing on the east and the north side elevations.
Okay. Oh, I do have one question.
Go.
Are they required to keep the windows in the front existing?
No, there are not.
Okay. That's my only question.
Great, thank you. Board member Carlson, do you have any questions for the staff?
No.
Okay. Board member Smeaton, do you have any questions for the staff?
Not particularly, other than the fact we're pushing right up against the FAR. Is that correct? We're like, we hit it. So it,
Right.
no more, not a foot left. Okay. That's all the question that I have.
Great, thank you. Board member Younger?
No questions.
Okay, great. And I don't have any questions either. So we'll now move into the public hearing. Staff, were there any public comments for this item?
Yes, we received two neighbors' letters that are in favor of this proposal, in addition to the applicant wishing to remove the condition.
Great, thank you. Does the applicant have a presentation?
Yes, yes, he does.
Okay.
So would you like to play it now?
Yes, please.
Okay, it's just one. Okay, for some reason, it's not playing. Let me do one more thing.
Melinda, do you have a copy of the presentation? Would it be possible to play it from your computer?
Here, I'll play it now. I have it downloaded just now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Let me see where it's gonna play.
Hello, members.
Oops, sorry.
Hello, members of the Design Review Board. My name is Odom Stamps. I'm here representing the Min family that live at 804 Milan Avenue or Milan Avenue, depending on how you like to pronounce it. And I'm here to talk about the project that we would like to do here, which is to give the house overall an exterior facelift and make it look more compatible with the neighborhood. And then to add a second story addition over the portion of the rear of the house that is not already two-story. And finally, to extend on one side a one-story addition that will go between the existing house and the existing guest house. I'd first like to start by talking about the houses on the street that are adjacent to the north and south and across the street. They are in a range of styles, but predominantly craftsman. They are, for the most part, wood, whether wood-sided or wood-shingled, as you can see on the photographs of the fronts of the houses that we have included in our presentation. They are predominantly two-story, and in fact, this house is two-story in most of its area. We are essentially keeping the overall form of the house in the front, but we are proposing to remove metal pergola hoops that go from the front driveway back to the front door that are kind of overgrown. So what you're looking at the front of the existing house is essentially the vines that cover the metal completely. We would like to remove those, and we'd like to build a front porch that goes across the front of the house with posts at each end to support it and tying into the existing two-car garage that's out in front. Stylistically, we would like to make this house more of a early 20th century house, proto-craftsman, but maybe even a little earlier than a classic craftsman residence that many of the houses are on the street. There are older houses in the city that evoke this style, and that's actually the style that we were trying to go for in this particular renovation. The front of the house is done in a manner that is in keeping with the style of that period, turn of the century, 1900 approximately, 1902, 1904. And it also includes brackets on either side of the carport with an extension of a pergola element and a repeat of those brackets at each of the posts in the front so that it's a thematic detail that carries through. And we are proposing to redo the garage doors so that they look more like a carriage house or a carriage bay that might be on the side of the house. We're sort of stuck with a plan that was allowed back in the 70s when this house was first built, but to the extent that we can, we're going to try to make it harmonize better with the neighborhood. Very much what they did next door, for instance. Secondly, we are proposing to make the area in the backyard a little bit more yard-friendly, indoor-outdoor living. So although we are using the same wood siding and trim vocabulary, we are making it a little bit more mid-century in that we have large sliding doors that can open almost the whole way and let you go in and out from one of 3 different rooms, 2 of which are existing and 1 is new on the side that surround a pool courtyard. There was an existing pool, in fact, that got very close to the house, and we're proposing to remodel this pool, make it a little bit smaller, and make it rectangular so that it can be covered with a pool cover and make it a little bit safer when the pool is not in use. That pool cover is automated, can be rolled back, and it's lockable. So a little bit more secure in the knowledge that the pool can be locked when no one is home. Finally, we are proposing to add a pergola and the same siding to an existing guest house that's in the back, and in carrying around the siding, thereby make it look like it's continuously a part of the existing house. We've added that pergola and a barbecue area because this house, which is surrounded by tall hedges on all sides in the backyard, is going to be more about indoor-outdoor living with the emphasis on outdoor. There's a sports court, there's existing in the back, there's this new pergola with the barbecue. There is a loggia that is a covered breezeway in between, in the middle of the one-story extension across from the pool. It's really quite livable and enjoyable backyard as designed, and we hope that you will like it and approve it this evening. Thanks.
Great, thank you. The applicant online?
Madam Chair, the applicant representative, Odom Stamps, is online with us. Odom, can you hear us?
I can. Good evening.
Good evening. Great. Thank you. So I will call on each board member to ask questions to the applicant. Vice Chair Sai.
I wanted to ask, the windows in the front, I noticed you're keeping existing. Are those the original windows to the house?
Yes, they are. They are were built in 1970, so I don't know that they would meet today's Title 24 requirements. And we are copying them in style, but the new windows that we would be adding or changing would in fact meet Title 24. They would be dual glaze.
Right, and I noticed there's a lot of windows too that, so I wonder if you're just copying the windows and going through the extent of replicating it in all around the whole house, why not just change out, there's only a few in the front. Why not change those out as well so that, they could be energy efficient as well?
That would be a great idea. I didn't want to necessarily run up the tab for my clients, but frankly, it would make their house more energy efficient, and over time they'd recapture that undoubtedly with a cheaper energy bill in heating and cooling the house.
I mean,
so if that was a condition, I think that they would be okay with that.
Yeah, because the work is extensive, it's like not worth it to change out 3 or 4 windows down the road if they're doing all this work now.
Well, it's a few $1,000s spent, and I believe though if that was a condition of approval, they would be okay with that.
And my other question is what is the trim size around the windows?
So if you go to the details in the set that I turned in with you, I have those in fact drawn to scale at 3 inches to a foot, and I will measure that real quick. That's on the 800 page.
Oh, I don't have the 800 page. It goes from 5:30 to 8:01.
Yes, they're 3.5 inches by 3/4 of an inch, a 1x4 trim.
Okay. And then just one last, well, and then I do have another question. I noticed that the original house had some shutters on it in the front.
Yeah.
I thought that was a nice character to the house, even though the original house wasn't that.
I think the original house is to put it politely, very modest, and that is in fact a singular statement that they made. But those shutters are non-functioning. They are not correctly sized. They wouldn't, if they were functioning, close the window at all, and they're really vestigial. And I didn't put the shutters on because if I were going to put shutters, especially if we redid the windows, I would make them operable and functional. But that would be pretty pricey to do.
I agree. I like them as a decorative element, but that's just one thing I just noticed. And that was my last question.
Great, thank you. Board Member Smeaton, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah. Hi, Odom.
Hey, Mark.
Your question regarding planning condition P14, I'm kind of in agreement with you for this reason. You're doing your best with what you have to work with on the house. So there's no real pure style of anything. You know what I mean? It's not like pure craftsman or pure whatever. So I would probably have done the same thing in the back of the house of having a lot of glass, opening it up. It's in the rear of the house. It's not something that's seen from the street, and it takes full advantage of the yard. So unless, and if you want to add anything more to that, I kind of agree that it doesn't have to be all broken up, with multi-light windows and doors and what have you. Excuse me. I think I like the approach of that. So I'm kind of in favor of your comment of having that P14 removed. Let me see. Do I have another question for you? Let's see. I think I do like. Yeah, no, that's actually it. That's really my only question. Thanks.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Board Member Smeaton. Board Member Carlson, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Yes, actually. With respect to the hardscape, it seems, did you guys discuss ever making any changes out there? It doesn't seem in character with your new design or the neighborhood so much. It's that it looks just kind of like a parking area.
Yeah, that's exactly the problem. In fact, we've gone to great extent to get rid of those kinds of houses where you put the garage in a backup space and room to turn it around. But unfortunately, it's a design that we inherited because of the layout, and we didn't want to go to the point of tearing this down. I mean, otherwise it really would have become a tear down. To redo the garage and put it in the back as our current guidelines call for.
Well, I think in that style of house, my house has the garage in the front. It was built in 1935, but it's just the driveway goes directly to the garage, and then there's a walkway up to the house, and that seems more in character with our neighborhoods here.
The one disadvantage of doing that is that you would basically back in and back out of the garage, whereas right now you're able to pull out of the garage, make a T-turn, and you're heading out the correct way out of the driveway. I could understand doing landscaping ahead so that essentially you don't see the driveway. Right now, I suppose we didn't touch it because it is part of that City Beautiful deeding back to the community through continuous lawn. And there's lawn on either side of the neighbors. But if you were not focused on the City Beautiful movement and having this continuous lawn house to house, then I could understand doing some kind of a landscape treatment or even a low hedge or wall.
I see.
So if you made that a condition of approval, I think that that's something that we would definitely entertain to screen it.
I think it's something that we could discuss if the other members agreed.
Are there any other questions? Board Member Wilson? Nope. Board Member Younger, do you have questions for the applicant?
Hi, Odom. I
Hey, Kay.
don't have any questions. No, I just appreciate the bringing a house back up to the standard of the neighborhood. It's nice. It's lovely.
Thank you.
Great. I do have one question regarding the loggia in the back. Is that actually open? I couldn't tell by the elevation. I assumed it was open. It looked like there might have been glazing on it, but I just wanted to check.
No, you're exactly right. It is open. So you have a roof over the top that's continuous, but the south side and the north side are open air. And there is an outside grill / fireplace in the middle of it.
Okay. Excellent, nice. And then also going off Board Member Carlson's point about the front driveway and the hardscape, there are other materials too. There's impervious, not impervious pavers, but they have these pavers now that you can actually drive over and you still get vegetation, you still get grass that goes through them. So there's ways to kind of solve, I think, the hardscape issue, because I do think that it is a bit of an eyesore and it's unfortunate on that front, on the front facade. There is the most prominent thing that you see, and there's lots of hardscape. I understand the functionality of the driveway, makes total sense to me. I'm a big proponent of safety. Don't like it when people are backing out of their driveways onto any of the streets here. So functionality, I think, is number one, but I do think there's ways to solve. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to spend my client's money willy-nilly, but I take your point. I think you could use a hedge to screen it at least at the car level as you're driving by. But I could talk to my clients about the driveway. Frankly, one of the nice ways to handle it, speaking of pervious surfaces, would be to take out the concrete and replace it with inexpensively, but with DG with a gravel topping. I think that looks beautiful. It has a nice crunch to it. The only downside is, in fact, it isn't really a downside, but you could have stepping stones to cross it, walking from the sidewalk to the front of the house, and those could be driven over, which would solve the problem of people with nice shoes not wanting to get their shoes scuffed on either gravel or DG. That's the only, and I almost said downside, but it's not really a downside. So that could be done in an inexpensive manner, and I could talk to my clients about that. But I don't want to volunteer to come up with a pervious, interlocking brick or cast block system without at least talking to them, because it's not inexpensive.
Understood. Makes sense. Okay, so we've gone through the questions for the applicant. I'm now going to close the public hearing and we will have a discussion amongst ourselves. So I ask that every board member unmute themselves. Oh, Kanika, yes.
Madam Chair, I want to address that front yard pavement area, and looking at the zoning code, there is a requirement that the front yard not be all paved. And there's limitation that it can only be, I think, 45%, no more than 45% of the front yard can be paved. So staff would recommend that we add a condition in here that it would be approved by the chair to address that section of the code regarding pavement. And looking at the picture that was shown on the screen earlier, it looks like they could do the driveway to access the garage for their garage access, but the additional paving where the other car is parked at, that may have to be changed back to landscape or some sort of more pervious material rather than pavement to comply with our code.
But it is pre-existing right now.
Right, but when you're doing an addition to the house, there are certain stuff that needs to bring up to our code standard. And one of them is parking, and one of them is a lot of issues like front yards that will have to come up to code with the site, the proposed addition that is being proposed.
Is DG considered landscaping?
That's something that we'll have to look into, and that's why I would recommend that it would be a condition for chair review. So we can look into what material would be appropriate to meet that section of the code.
I'm sorry, Kanika, is the 45% the whole front yard, or is it just like the first 10 feet or a certain distance?
It's only in the front yard setback. So Lisa, what's the front yard setback of this?
This one goes beyond the front yard setback. I'd have to double check the staff report.
Okay.
But right now it's at 43 feet setback.
Okay, so this one's further back. But so let us staff look into that, and the commission and the board can continue your discussion on that. That's something we'll have to check the code on and get back to the board on that. That if we do address that as a conditions approved, then we'll do it as a chair review so that it gives the applicant the flexibility to propose something that could work out there while meeting our code.
Then now we will close the public hearing portion and we'll have a discussion amongst ourselves. So I ask that everybody please unmute their microphones, and let's start off with board member Smeaton.
Okay. I actually, excuse me, I'm fine with the house. I mean, literally, I think it's a huge improvement for what's there right now. It's a big improvement without trying to be too much. You know, I think it meets the grade there. I have no issues with all the glass in the back of the building and all that. I really think that's a kind of a non-issue, and if the client wants that, I think he or she deserves to have that for the indoor and outdoor feeling. So I do think that we should do a chair review or make it a condition of looking at that front yard area, the driveway, the landscape, and just do it as a chair and see where that goes. But that's about all the comments I have.
Anyone else?
No, I just see the whole thing as a neighborhood upgrade, and you know, of course, people's budgets always restrict them. When you have a budget, it restricts you. Yeah, I lovely. It's lovely.
My only additional comment would be with respect again to that hardscape. I think that area to the left where the car is parked, it seems like a little parking spot. You know, it doesn't feel like the entrance to a house. It's like, I just find it a little bit, whether it's the DG or hedges or something, if that could be broken up a little bit rather than that
Yeah.
concrete slab, I think it would be a huge improvement.
I agree.
Yeah, I've no doubt that once they start working on the house and the client, if not Odom, sees it all happening, they're gonna have to fix that. To make it all work together.
I agree too. I think overall, I feel that overall the design is definitely an improvement from what's there. It definitely currently has a 1970s kind of style and feel to it, which really doesn't seem to fit in with the street. So I appreciate the facade facelift. Just to parrot what Mark said, I agree that the glazing at the exterior is not a concern for me. And I'm all about, when a client or the owner wants something that's very functional and works, and as long as it's not an eyesore or a major issue, then I'm all for that. So I agree that the glazing doesn't seem to be a concern. I think that was condition P14. So I don't think that there's a need for that condition of approval. Um, and overall, I think the design, the aesthetic is very nice and it ties together really well. I appreciate the loggia and the style of that as well. So I think it's done quite well. My only concern is, as board member Carlson mentioned, the front yard, how you address that parking lot and the hardscape there. So it would be with obviously working within the client's budget. So not going extreme, but doing some minor improvements just to kind of address that area.
And if you do end up with chair review, let me just mention, from experience, if you want to mention to the client, I've done a DG driveway before, and when you have hardwood floors, that stuff gets tracked in your shoes and you get scratches. We had a front yard where we did the drivable grass that you'd mentioned before, with the squares with the grass in between. We took it out, put in the DG, took that out and ended up with brick. So it's my experience for you. I would say maybe steer away from DG wherever you can.
I think there's, if it's not, the grading is not done well, the DG will erode. So that's something to be wary of.
Yeah, that too.
In a lot of houses. Yeah, but I just want to mimic what everyone said. It's a tremendous improvement of what's existing, the current design, and I have no problems with the glazing in the back either. So I agree with the applicant that we should strike the condition P14.
Agreed, yeah.
Okay, great. Are there any other comments? All right, hearing none. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll try it. I'd like to make a motion to approve the project with the condition of deleting the condition P14, but adding on a chair view of the front hardscape.
Excellent.
I'll
Do
second.
we have anyone second? Excellent. Board Member Younger second the motion. So now a motion was made by Vice Chair Tsai and second by Board Member Younger. So we will take roll call. Vice Chair Tsai, yay or nay?
Yay.
Board Member Carlson.
Yes.
Board Member Smeaton.
Yay.
And Board Member Younger.
Yes.
And myself, yes. So the project was approved, and removing condition P14 from the current conditions of approval, and with a condition that the front yard and the hardscaping be addressed and looked at, and it will go under chair review. So that passes by a vote of 5-0. This project is approved, subject to the conditions of approval, as just mentioned. This decision is final unless an appeal is filed within 15 days from today. No construction or activity may commence during this period, and appeal forms may be obtained from the city clerk's office. So congratulations, and we will now move on to the next item. So next we have item number 7. It's a design review addition at 5049 Collis Avenue. Before we proceed, I ask that board members Eaton and Sy to recuse themselves because they are within 1,000 feet of this project site. Once the item commences, I'll invite them back into the meeting. Okay, excellent. So staff, is there a report, please?
Madam Chair, Ellie Gonzalez, she is our planning intern who worked on this project.
Okay,
And
Melody.
she will provide a staff report.
Okay, great. You broke up a little bit there. I got that.
Go ahead and start a presentation. She was just introducing Anelli Gonzalez, who is our planning intern here. Sorry about that.
Excellent. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Nelly.
I have to recuse myself too, correct, Kanika?
Yes. That's correct, Mark. There we go.
Good evening, board members and Madam Chair. Let me go ahead and present. Good evening, board members. This project is for 5049 Collis Avenue, project number 2297, design review. The project is for design review for a 583 square foot addition with 140 square foot covered front porch and a 50 square foot rear deck. The project is categorically exempt from CEQA under section 15301, class 1 existing facilities. The project site is located on the 8,210 square foot lot with Monterey Road located to the north, Oak Hill Place to the west, Hill Drive to the south, and the home located on the east side of Collis Avenue. The property is surrounded by 1- and 2-story single-family homes. This image is an aerial view of the project site with the property outlined in green. This image shows a view from the street of the existing home. The home was built in 1953. The existing exterior facade consists of a stucco finish, torch-down roof, wood and aluminum windows, and a front porch. The existing site plan with proposed demolitions to the house are outlined in red, and the proposed demolitions to the potting shed and trellis are outlined in blue. The proposed site plan and proposed additions are outlined in green. This is an image of the existing and proposed east elevation. The proposed additions to the house will match the existing exterior materials. The stucco will be painted in a mid-toned yellow. The addition located in the front of the home will have a shed roof, a new larger covered front porch that will span approximately 2/3 of the front facade. Double hung, fixed, and awning wood windows are proposed. Here is an image of the existing and proposed north elevation. On this elevation, one existing window will be removed for the new addition, and 4 new double hung, awning, and fixed wood windows will be installed. 2-foot roof eaves are incorporated on the proposed additions and through the entirety of the existing home. Here is an image of the existing and proposed south elevation. The portion of the front addition on the south side will have a gable roof. The small addition towards the rear of the home will have a gable roof with the same slope as well. The existing windows consist of wood with a new aluminum window located in the bathroom. For the proposed new windows, the applicant has chosen double hung and casement wood windows on this elevation. Existing and proposed west elevation. The rear deck's vertical railings, steps, and slats proposed material is wood. Existing windows will remain and a new wood frame door is proposed. This image is a rendering of the proposed landscaping. The project includes removal of one crab tree located in front of the residence. No tree removal permit is required. Proposed plants and trees include a strawberry tree, palo verde, lemon trees, magenta, rock rose, red star, afterglow, and deer grass. Staff recommends that the design review board approve the design review for the additions subject to conditions. Design review board has 3 options: recommend approval of the project, continue the project to address comments discussed, recommend denial of the project. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So now we will move into questions for the staff. Board member, do you have any questions for the staff?
No questions.
Great, thank you. Board member Carlson?
No, none.
Okay, and I also don't have any questions for the staff. So we will open up the public hearing. Staff, were there any public comments for this item?
Madam Chair, we received no comments.
Okay, great. Do we have a presentation from the applicant?
Yes, we actually do. And let me go ahead and present them.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
This is a presentation for a residential addition to 5049 Collis Avenue. The property address is in the southwest area of South Pasadena. This upper block of Collis Avenue is a dead-end stretch above Hill Drive. There's a mix of single-story, split-level, and two-story homes with a varied assortment of volumes and massing. Most have street-facing garages, and some have detached garages to the rear. The primary finish materials are stucco and wood, and where railings are required, they are typically wood. The existing home is a single-story, two-bedroom, mid-century traditional, built in 1953. It has minimal detailing, its most notable features being a large picture window in the living room and prominent roof eaves. It has a low-slope torch-down roof that appears flat from the street. The rooftop air conditioning unit was replaced in 2016. With a mechanical screen designed and installed per the city's request. The client wishes to add a third bedroom, a laundry room, and a new living room. Given the narrow lot, the new bedroom and living room are proposed for the front of the home. The new bedroom is the same size as the existing second bedroom, and the new relocated living room maintains the jog in the front elevation as the current home. The existing entry porch is expanded to the full width of the living room, and the former living room is converted to a dining room. The laundry room is planned for the rear of the home, with a small deck and revised steps for both exits. The east elevation faces Collis Avenue. A low retaining wall and brick planters create a horizontality we wish to echo in the proposed. The expanded porch was designed to complement the street, but it will have better proportioned structural elements than the previous. The topmost roof eave of the living room will, from the street, completely obscure visibility of the existing rooftop mechanical screen. The pitch of the living room roof uses the same low slope as the existing roof, but flipped to add variety to the overall massing of the home. The dining room windows are reconfigured to the needs of the room's new function, and the laundry room and small deck are seen to the rear. The south elevation is the least visible, given its proximity to the property line, the home to its south,
and the perimeter foliage. The existing second bedroom's window is updated to match that of the new. To the rear, the master bedroom steps are updated. The proposed west elevation brings uniformity to the new laundry room entry and the master bedroom entry. The material and color selections, combined with new hardscaping and landscape, should make the home feel welcome to the street and appropriate to the neighborhood. We welcome any questions and thank you for your time.
Great, thank you. So do we have any questions for the applicant, board member Younger? Oh, is the applicant actually, I apologize, I didn't realize.
Yeah, so we actually have Jean Paul, the owner, and also the architect, Paul Ashley, available.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, I see both are on now. So board member Younger, do you have questions for the applicant?
I don't
I
have
believe
any.
they're both online.
No.
Okay. Board member Carlson?
No.
I also don't have any questions for the applicant. So in that case, we'll then close the public hearing and we'll have a discussion amongst ourselves. So I ask you unmute your microphones, board members, and we can, board member Younger, if you wouldn't mind just starting us off.
I was just thinking that it's a really charming house and a really nice use of property. It's well planned, bringing that out front. Yeah, nice.
I have to say I agree. My first question was, normally additions, or at least it's very common for additions to happen at the rear of a structure and kind of keep the facade, usually because it's in relationship to setbacks in the front, and that usually you can't build out. But in this case, the addition's happening in the front, and it gives the opportunity to kind of give a nice fresh facelift to the building, to the home. So I think it's done very, very well, very nicely. I love that. I actually like the rendering and the landscaping that was shown too in the front of the house. I think it's got a quaint feel to it, so it doesn't feel large or overbearing, the overall massing and design. So I think it was done well.
Yeah, I agree.
Board member Carlson, do you have anything to add?
Not really. I would concur that I think it's a really good use of the space and going to give them a lot of extra room and no real downside.
I agree as well. So in that case, it sounds like we're probably ready to make a motion because there's no question. There doesn't seem to be any concerns. So
I'd be happy to.
Madam Chair, you might wish to inquire whether there's any public comment. I don't recall whether or not
you're
there
right. I
was.
actually did. I forget to, I apologize. Thank you for catching that. So were there any public comments for this item? Anel, you're muted. Okay.
Yes, no public comments, Madam Chair.
Okay, great. Thank you. So there are no public comments. So in that case, going back to, closing out our discussion, do you feel that we're ready to make a motion? If anybody would like to make a motion?
I'd be happy to make a motion to approve this project. It's lovely, yes.
Great, thank you. And board member Carlson seconds it. So a motion was made by board member Younger and it was seconded by board member Carlson. So we will now take roll call. Board member Younger, yay or nay? Okay, board member Carlson, yay or nay?
Yay.
Excellent. Myself, yay. So the project is approved and passes by a vote of 3-0. And this project is approved subject to the conditions of approval. This decision is final unless an appeal is filed within 15 days from today. No construction or activity commenced during this period, and appeal forms may be obtained from the city clerk's office. So congratulations. I will now ask that board member Smeaton and Sy rejoin us. Excellent. So I see board member Sy and board member Smeaton. So we're now going into the consent calendar. Seeing that there is nothing on for the consent calendar or presentations, we will move on to comments from council liaison. Mayor Mahmood, welcome to our meeting. And do you have anything to report or share?
Yes, I do, very briefly. First of all, welcome to Joe Carlson. I was very impressed that you weren't shy about making contributions right at the get-go. This is what I anticipated with my appointment of you. And so thank you. I think you have a keen eye, and I think that your expertise will definitely be of assistance to this commission. I have to say I
was a
am
little nervous, and I hope they follow the appropriate protocol. That's all.
You have no reason to be, sir. I have to say I was very impressed, number one, by the extent to which our residents continue to invest in our community. You know, I am very concerned. I purchased my home over 30 years ago, and I don't think, going back, would I be able to purchase my home, the present home that I have now, given the relative escalation of the incomes that my husband and I had at the time? Probably not. And I think that I represent so many of our residents. And so it is particularly heartwarming to me to see the extent to which our residents are able to invest in our community, improve the appearance of their buildings, of their residences, make them more functional. And I think we saw several examples of that, where they're really trying hard to not only make the buildings more beneficial for themselves, but also make them blend within their existing community. And that is very impressive. I was duly impressed by the quality of the questions that were raised by our commissioners. You folks know what you're doing. It is just, I haven't, this is only the second year that the council has had a liaison to this. You're not really a commission, but you sort of are, because you're established under our municipal code. And at the time, I was concerned, well, do we really need a council liaison to this? And I spoke to your then chair, Mark Smeaton, and also to Joanna Hancomer, and they both suggested, yes, I think this is important. And after just my first meeting here, I think, yes, it is important for council to observe what you're doing. And I'm just very impressed by you all, and keep up the good work. And I look forward to participating in your future meetings. And thank you for what is obviously a pretty demanding dedication of time to review all of the plans, all of the proposed conditions. This is not an easy commission to be a member of, but on behalf of City Council, thank you so much for dedicating your personal time for the benefit of our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. We now, do we now have any comments from our board members? Would anyone like to go first? Board member Smeaton? Any comments?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Vice Chair Sy?
I have no comments.
Board member Younger?
No comments, just welcome, Joe. You did great, Joe.
Excellent.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Looks like a good group.
You did an excellent job. And I have to say, there's a few times I I threw the bone out to you right away and you just latched on. So I appreciate that. You had some great input and I really appreciate that. You made the discussion much more lively and in depth. So thank you. Appreciate it. And that's my only comment. Did you have anything else to add, Board Member Carlson?
No, thanks.
Okay, great. Well, welcome. So now thank you, board members. Do we have any subcommittees that would like to report or share anything? I don't think, I know that the subcommittee for the large project review, we haven't met since the 7 patios, which we discussed at the previous meeting. So I don't think that there's no updates for that. And I don't believe that the subcommittees met for the ADUs yet, so that's still pending. And so it seems like there's no updates or reports from any subcommittees. So with no updates from the subcommittees, we will now have from staff. Staff, do you have any comments to make?
Madam Chair, just
Yes.
want to remind the board that you guys have Brown Act training next Wednesday, February 10th. And also want to remind our former chair Smeaton to put together a presentation to present to council for the annual report for 2020. It's limited to 3 minutes, so
What?
You on that.
Okay.
It's gonna be presented to council sometime in March. I'll get you the specific date. So just to remind you on that, and then to report back on the 7 patios project that the chair brought up that this subcommittee worked on. That was scheduled for city council review last night, and staff requested and I've been requested for continuation of that project, and that's been moved to March 3rd. So the council will be reviewing that project on March 3rd. And that's all I have to remind you. And also want to let you know that we'll be having a ADU workshop for community also on Wednesday night at 7:30 after the Brown Act training. So I encourage everyone to join for that. It is part of updating our ADU ordinance to allow more ADU production. I know that this board created a subcommittee for ADU, and our thought was really using your expertise in helping us develop design objective standards. And that's going to be part of phase 2 and working on the historic preservation. So our goal in phase 1 of the ADU right now is really just to streamline the ADU process, make the process more simple for our resident to understand. And that's all I have to report. I just wanted to tell the board Happy New Year, and that you guys did really good for heavy agenda tonight.
It was a long one. Kanika, that does remind me, on the 24th, I remember last meeting back in December, you mentioned the 24th that there was going to be a commissioners meeting. Are we still doing that?
Yes, it was supposed to be for the commission congress. I think it was on the 23rd, but I think since everything's all virtual now, we're not going to go to in person anymore. For now, for this year, that it will just be merged with the city council meeting. So rather than having 2 separate events on the 23rd and then at the council meeting to present, that we're just gonna do it as one, present it all at council.
Got it. Okay, great. So that'll be so that's the future date, the March 10th or whenever that Mark will then present.
Yeah, I think it's either March 3rd or March 17th. I'll have to get back on that. So our former chair will be representing the board at that meeting.
Excellent. Puts a big smile on my face, Mark.
unless I dedicate or give that assignment off to somebody else. No.
You can't. It's yours.
How about it, Joe? What do you think?
I'm a little green for that.
Nice try, Mark.
Okay, well, great. So thank you, staff, and thank you, everyone. We will move to adjourn the meeting now. Before we adjourn, I would like to remind everyone that the next regular Design Review Board meeting is scheduled for March 4th at 6:30 p.m. And it will be online, again, digitally. So the time is now 9:35 p.m. and the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent job, new chair. Congratulations.
Very well done, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you.
I didn't have
We're
to do
very
that.
excited for 2021. Be a good year.
And Mark, cheers, Chief.
Yes.
Great to see you still with us, but everybody stay well, please. We're still in this this rough time. Please stay vigilant, stay safe.
Yes, agree. Stay safe.
Thank
All right.
you. I'll go ahead and end our recording. We're still live on YouTube, so I'm going to take us off now.
Okay.
Before I get too personal.